My name is Aiden Reynolds, first name spelled Aidan, last name spelled Reynolds.
Okay, thank you. You don't need to lean into the mic, we're picking you up well.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. So, Mr. DeMora, direct examination.
Thanks, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Reynolds.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Reynolds, I wanted to go back to April of 2023. Do you remember where you were on April 27, 2023?
Yes. At around 11,
Correct.
my colleague Ian Hallebertton and I were working on a research project involving monitoring bird nests around Davis and other urban areas. That particular morning, we were monitoring a bird near Central Park who was foraging in the northern portion of the park. We were following it southbound through the park when we passed by some benches. Out of my peripheral vision, I saw someone sitting in one of the benches, but it was only when we approached like that area about like 10 or 15 yards away where Ian noticed that he was in a really bad state. I remember he said, that man is dead. And I turned and looked more closely at the man sitting in the bench, and it was very clear he was in a very bad state. And that's when Ian.
Well, let me stop you real quick. Let me break up a couple of things first.
Absolutely.
I want to go back to, you said that you and Ian Hallebertton were working on a research project involving birds. What were you doing at the time? What was your job or your trade or field of study?
Yeah, so the project is called Project Phoebe, and we kind of analyze the effects of urban environments on a specific songbird species called the black phoebe.
What's the name of the bird?
Black phoebe.
Can you spell it?
It's BLACK PHOEBE.
Okay, that's for the court report. Thanks.
Yeah, and it's a little black songbird. They build mud cup nests on the underside of roofs, so they're very common in urban ecosystems. And so we have a bunch of sites where we monitor those birds and their nests in multiple parks around Davis and Sacramento and Woodland. And yeah, on this particular morning, we went to a bird that we were monitoring near Central Park. I believe its nest was located northwest of Central Park across the intersection.
Let me stop you right there.
Yeah.
When you say Central Park, you're talking about the city of Davis?
Yes.
And
Yes.
when you say across the intersection, what intersection are you referring to?
I believe it's I'm not actually sure. I've lived in Davis for 4 years and I still can't remember the streets, but yeah, it was. Can I pull up my phone to?
That's all right.
How about this?
We're good.
I will show you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 2B. Am I approach going?
Okay, did you say 2B as in boy?
2 as in boy.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Reynolds, I'm showing you People's Exhibit 2B. Are you able to recognize what that is?
Yes.
And what is that?
That is Central Park. I could see the bench where we found David.
And you're familiar with this photograph or this overview of Central Park?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so before we get into too many of the details about this, I'm going to ask you some questions in a little bit.
Okay.
But the intersection you're referring to, do you see it on here?
Yes, it's right here.
Okay, and you're pointing to the bottom left corner of this exhibit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, that's not an important quarter.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Great, thank you. Now, if I can, see if I can get this published with permission from the court.
Okay.
There we go. So you were saying the intersection on 2B is this bottom left-hand corner right there. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, so when you tracking this bird, you mentioned that you got about, and I wanted to say this correctly, about 15 yards away from the benches.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Sorry.
All right. So if you're able to, with one of the landmarks in this photograph, identify where you and Mr. Hallebertton were about the time you first saw Mr. Breaux.
Here, you want to point it out?
Sure.
You push the button, there's a laser on it.
So we walked across this crosswalk, and we're walking around this trajectory, where around here is where we noticed that there was something wrong, and and that's when we took a closer look at the body, and that's when Ian decided to call in a wellness check. But it was.
So, for the record, you took the laser pointer, went from kind of the middle of the grassy area up to the right of the exhibit.
Yes.
And you stopped where it looks like there's people to the right side of that white square, which is a tent.
Yes.
So you mentioned that Ian had said that person looks dead.
Yes.
Did you look in that direction at where David was sitting on his bench?
Not before Ian had mentioned that. In my peripheral vision, I did see someone sitting on the bench, but I wasn't looking directly over there. I was focused on the bird that was flying towards the carousel.
And that carousel is off to the upper right of.
Yes.
So when Ian said that, when you heard him say that, what did you do?
I turned to my left and looked closer at what Ian had pointed out. It was from there where we both concluded that the man was probably deceased and that we should call a wellness check to confirm that.
And why did you believe he appeared deceased?
There was a visible pool of blood directly beneath him, below the bench, and there were a lot of flies buzzing around him.
Did you get closer to him than the 15 yards when you first saw him?
Yes, we got about maybe 5 yards away.
Were there any signs of life, such as movement, gasping for air or breath or words, anything like that?
No, none whatsoever.
Did you or Ian ever come into contact with the body? Did you touch it or move it?
No.
Did you see any items on the ground around the body?
No.
Did you see any like clothes or backpacks or anything like that?
No.
Prior to, and I'm going to step back for a second, when you saw Mr. Breaux, when you saw the body on the bench in your periphery, prior to Ian seeing anything, had there been anything to draw your attention to that body?
No, I would say not. Nothing that stood out that drew my attention to the bench, besides the fact that there appeared to be a man sitting on the bench.
Did you ever hear any struggle or fight or screaming coming from that direction or that bench?
No.
Did you see anyone lingering in the areas around that body or that bench?
No, I believe there was a meeting with some of the administration of that park. I think in this general area, and there was a man who was approaching us and asked if we were gonna call it in once we told him that the man was dead and that we wanted to call in a wellness check. But that was the only activity in that area besides some like families in this playground over here.
Right, so the first place you had pointed to where there's that meeting, it was off to the right of the exhibit. Where
Yes.
it looks like there's concrete and some benches. And then the playground area, for the record, you indicated was at the upper portion of the exhibit, just along that tree line.
Yes.
Did you see any type of weapon on the ground, like a knife or a sharp object?
No.
And how long did you and Mr. Hallebertton stay in that area?
I'd say we waited about 10 minutes for the police, and we waited in the general area for probably another 45 minutes.
And just to step back for 1 second, when we started our questioning, you said at 11, and we talked about morning, but just to be clear, we're talking about 11 a.m. on April 27th.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. No further questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Demora. Mr. Hutchinson, any cross?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, counsel. Mr. Reynolds, thank you for making time for me today. Have a great day.
Thank you. You as well.
All right, Mr. Demora, a witness?
People call Ian Hallebertton.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Hallebertton. Come on in, stand here at the podium before me. Thank you for being here. I'm going to have the clerk administer an oath, then I'll have you take the witness stand, 2 lawyers to ask questions, okay?
Please raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear to swear about to give and the cause now pending for the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated. State your first and last name for the record and spell them both.
Ian, I-A-N, last name Halleberton, H-A-L-I-B-U-R-T-O-N.
Okay, thank you. You won't need to lean in, I don't think. Yeah, just relax. Thank you. Mr. Demora, direct exam.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Hallebertton. Mr. Hallebertton, what do you do for a living?
I'm currently an ornithologist at the San Diego Natural History Museum.
And could you tell us what an ornithologist is?
Yes, I am a field biologist, an ecologist, specifically working with birds.
In April of 2023, did you have the same position or were you doing something different?
In April of 2023, I was a graduate student at UC Davis.
What were you studying?
I was studying animal behavior.
And when did you graduate?
I graduated in June of 2024.
So I want to take you to April 27th of 2023, around 11 a.m. Were you at Central Park in City of Davis, County of Yolo, around 11 a.m. with Aiden Reynolds?
Yes.
Who was Mr. Reynolds to you at the time? Were colleagues, friends? Was he your researcher?
Yeah, so Aiden is an undergraduate at UC Davis still, and was at the time, and he was an undergraduate technician on the project that I was working on.
You just spoke a little bit about that, but the two of you were tracking a specific type of bird.
That's correct.
Did your project take you into Central Park?
Yes, Central Park is one of our study sites.
Just after 11 a.m. That day, was your attention drawn to something?
Yes, we were following this particular bird that he likely mentioned across the road there at B Street into Central Park. It took us through that like northern part of the park towards the carousel, and as I passed by a bench on that northern side of the park, I noticed someone who wasn't moving, and then stayed there, continuing to observe this person.
How long did you observe this person?
It only took maybe about 5 or 10 minutes, probably even less, before I realized that something was wrong. Given that the person wasn't moving, that was what first drew my attention. And then I started noticing other concerning things that convinced me to call the police, such as blood.
When you say such as blood, what did you observe about blood?
The first thing that I noticed was blood, what I presume was blood based on the color, underneath the bench. And then as I looked more carefully at the person on the bench, I saw stains on their clothes as well that appeared to be blood.
How close, when you first made an observation that something was wrong, about how far away were you?
Maybe about 15 feet.
And did you get closer when you started to observe more concerning things?
It wasn't really necessary. It was apparent from that distance that the person wasn't moving and that there was blood.
And during the entire time you were observing this individual, did you at any point see any signs of life?
No, I did not. Of course, I realized that in cases like this, people often will like call and request that police check for life, or I don't know what the term is, but that's something that can be done. And I didn't feel competent assessing that myself, but of course with blood, it felt like something was seriously wrong.
And based on those observations, is it fair to say that you and Mr. Reynolds, you didn't touch the body or do anything, you called it in?
That's correct. We stayed about that same distance or more the entire time.
Did you see anyone else prior to the police getting there? Did you see anyone come up to the body, touch the body, move the body, anything like that?
I did not see anyone interact. There were other people in the area, and their attention was directed towards the body as well. I noticed things, and keeping roughly that same distance, asked these people, if they had noticed the same things and if they had called the police already, and no one had called the police.
Did you, from a distance, from your vantage point, did you see anything, any items on the ground around the body that we now know is David Breaux?
No, I did not.
Did you see any knives or sharp objects?
No, I only remember seeing the body, and below the bench all I remember was blood.
Mr. Hallebertton, no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Demora. Mr. Hutchinson?
No questions.
All right, Mr. Hallebertton, I appreciate your time.